Namaste. Today we have assembled here to pay homage to those General Bipin Rawat, his wife Madhulika Rawat, 11 other brave Indian defense personnel who were can't hear me? Okay. Can you hear me? Ask. Okay. Thank you. Brave 11 defense personnel who were martyred on December 8th. I pray to God Almighty to give peace to their departed soul and give strength to their families. And I also pray to the lone survivor, Group Captain Varun Singh, to recover fast. Before proceeding further, I would like to quote two inscriptions which I have encountered, which I have seen during my tenure in the army. One was in Kohima. When I was posted there is a war cemetery which reads, "When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow we gave our today." The other one is when I was in Ladakh, Chusul. It's from the Zangla, China border, where 124 soldiers of the Indian Army Command Regiment had bravely fought and killed 1,300 Chinese soldiers in '62 war. And it reads, "How can a man die better than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers and temples of his God?" Now, and a recent tweet by someone summarizes the love for the defense forces. Most of you must have read it. "If you have never seen, met or known a person and yet you feel terribly empty within at their death, great chances are that that person belonged to the Indian Armed Forces." This level of unparalleled and unprecedented love and the connect can only be generated by a man in uniform. Yes, General Bipin Rawat was in uniform. In army we keep saying that, "God, when I die, I should die with my boots on." And General Rawat died with his boots on and with his beloved by his side. General Rawat, your loss is a big blow to our motherland. He was the first Chief of Defense Staff, a post which was created in 2020. Prior to that, he had served as a 26th Chief of the Indian Army Staff. My connect with him is not only that we served together, but also that we both came from the same place in Uttarakhand, Pauri Garhwal. I recently met him last year and had a chat with him for about an hour in February 2020. He passed out from Military Academy, Indian Military Academy, Dehradun in 1978 with Sword of Honor. And they say, "Phoot ke paon palne mein dikhte hain." That epitomizes that he was destined to become the Chief of the Defense Staff. And he was commissioned in 5th Battalion of 11th Gorkha Rifle. And why it is important that his father, who was also a Lieutenant General Lakshman Singh Rawat, commanded the same unit. I've been asked to give some highlights of his career. General Rawat was an expert in counter-insurgency warfare and had served in most difficult terrain. He always believed in iron fist approach rather than velvet gloves diplomacy. That was a very, very different diplomacy he followed, iron fist. And one of the highlights of his career was that counter-insurgency operation we carried out in Myanmar. In 2015, in Manipur, 18 of our soldiers were ambushed by the insurgents. And this is the first time our army took operation inside the outside the Indian border, inside the enemy territory in Myanmar, and kill all the militants. And that time General Rawat was in Dimapur, 3 Corps commander, and he had planned this operation. At that time our neighbor, I don't want to name, you know all them, had laughed and said, oh my God, Myanmar mein jaake mara hai, hamare paas aao to bataye. In the year 2016, in response to Uri attack in September 18, 2016, in which 19 Indian soldiers were martyred rather, we carried out surgical strike inside the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Within 10 days, to plan an operation of this magnitude and this efficiency in 10 days is no mean job. And General Bipin Rawat was part of the planning of this surgical strike. You all must have seen the movie. In 2018, as an army chief, he defended Major Gogai involved in Kashmir human shield incident. I don't know how many of you know he was tasked to save those polling officers, 12 of them, and people were throwing stones and almost trying to kill them. He tied one of the stone thrower on the bonnet of the jeep, and he carried it, and he saved everybody's life. He was criticized. Major Gogai was condemned and criticized throughout the world by these so-called human rights people. General Bipin Rawat, as an army chief, gave him a commendation card. And when people criticized him, his answer was that Major Gogai saved 12 lives. If he had not done this, what would have happened? He has been telling, when I met him, and that time also, he says, my Jawan asked me, sir, people are throwing stones at us. People are throwing petrol bombs at us. His answer to his critic was, what do I reply to these Jawans? Should I tell them, don't worry, keep taking stones. When you die, I will send you a nice coffin, I will send you a tiranga, and I will give you a good burial. He said, no, I told them, do what you have to do as a soldier. You are not there, my soldiers are not there to take these stones. And that is the iron fist he used. After that, there has been no stone throwing in Kashmir. That was the quality of General Bipin Rawat. The Indian Army had taken under his leadership the most stringent steps against Pakistan. He had ensured strong retaliation to unprovoked ceasefire violation by the Pakistani army along the line of control. Never ever we had retaliated with such a force, and now the unprovoked firing has reduced to minimum. He has also managed military affairs along the border with China. As an army chief, General Rawat stood up to Chinese PLA at Doklam Plateau for 73 days in 2017, where Indian troops proactively blocked China's attempt to extend its motorable track. It was never done before. We had been watching. No, this time we were not watching. He had given a tremendous push to jointless and integration army, navy and air force, despite stiff resistance. That was his brainchild, theatre command. He created a theatre command where a commander will control all 3 branches of the services, army, navy and air force, and not look during the time of battle, come back again and again, revert back to Delhi for the orders. His main focus has been 3: theatre command, modernization of forces and equipment, and the welfare of his troops. He was blunt, outspoken, with the integrity of the highest order. He was not afraid of speaking his mind to other politicians or the 3 service chiefs. Even his critics would acknowledge that his determined thrust to build an integrated land, air and sea war-fighting machinery through theatre command and other means is desperately required for India amidst the limited budget of military modernization. He worked towards reducing the dependence on expensive foreign weapon system and backed made in India weapon system. He professed that we must guard and fight only along our border and coast dominate the Indian Ocean. Now, what does that mean? He always said that, see, we are not aggressive. We have never gone out of the country to attack any country. We are not expansionists. Why do we need such weapons to go into the enemy, and we are not going to occupy? We should be capable of defense. We should be, once we can defend ourselves, we can always offend. And that was his technique. He changed the total war game. One of the major shifts during his time was boosting Made in India by hand-holding our domestic industry. You know how many scams have taken place in the name of defense procurement? He stopped all that because he is now relying on the weapons to be made in India. And very soon we are going to see that these weapons will be exported to the foreign countries. He made it very clear to everyone that the real threat to India came from China and not Pakistan. Now, I would quote few lines from an unknown author. Freedom was the gift that you unselfishly gave. Freedom was the gift that you unselfishly gave. Pain and death was the price that you ultimately paid. Every day, I give my utmost admiration. Every day, I give my utmost admiration to those who had fought to defend our nation. You will be missed by every Indian, General Bipin Rawat. My Atma Shanti prayer for General Rawat, Mrs. Rawat, and 11 other brave soldiers. And of course, my prayers for the speedy recovery for the lone survivor. Om Shanti.